So, My Hero Academia Chapter 312 has officially released on the Shonen Jump app, and let me just say that between the fan translations and the official translations, there are a few differences that I really want to talk about, but primarily in this video, I want to talk about the new character, or at least semi-new character, that was fully revealed in this chapter, and I want to talk about their motives and why they are important to the story moving forward. But before that, let's hit that intro. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another manga chapter discussion. This time discussing manga chapter 312 of My Hero Academia, the official translation as Hired Gun. And when it comes to this chapter of My Hero Academia, there is a lot to talk about, primarily with the introduction of a new character, and also just a few different pieces of information that we get revealed in this chapter, and how these little small tidbits of information really divulges on what we know, not just about this character, but about how this situation is going to play out between Deku and this new individual, who we also get to know their name. So without the way, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Blue Drew 97, if you like this type of content, like me talking about My Hero Academia, like hearing my discussions, like hearing my manga reviews. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that little notification bell to be notified for whenever I upload. Alright, without the way, let's go over the chapter and go over discussing it. So yeah, let's start off with talking about the differences between the official translation and the fan translation, because there is a few differences between them that gives a little bit more clarity on what the chapter was trying to say about certain points. For starters, the actual name of the chapter officially is Hired Gun, while in the translations it was titled Assassin. That makes sense. A hired gun, for the most part, we equate to being an assassin, and just saying assassin in a shonen manga like this may not be fully liked or maybe deemed appropriate, so saying that it's a hired gun makes more sense. But the actual one major translation difference that I really want to talk about is something that Hawks brings up at the beginning of the chapter, because in the fan translations, when he's talking about Dr. Garaki and how they can no longer steal One for All by force between both Shigaraki and All for One, how they cannot do that without the help of Dr. Garaki, because he's unable to quote-unquote preserve the dead bodies, aka making more nomus. In the official translation, that is not necessarily the case, and that is not what is said. Specifically, what is said in the official translations is that because Garaki is locked up, that All for One and Shigaraki do not have the ability to preserve fresh quirk factors. And this is very interesting and very important, which also ties into this chapter as well, with the fact that because Dr. Garaki was the one who basically revolutionized the ability to store quirks that they have stolen, as well as to copy quirks, because we saw that he was able to copy twice his quirk, which is why when we first see him being revealed to be evil, how he melts into goo, it's because he copied twice his quirk. So he was the one that was mainly involved with it, and now that he's locked up, both All for One and Shigaraki do not have the capabilities of being able to gain new quirks and be able to store them for longer periods of time, or even the ability to copy them. So meaning that if Shigaraki gains a quirk, he cannot share it with All for One. If All for One was to get an important quirk, he cannot share it with Shigaraki. I guess they could theoretically do it because they both have All for One, but that would get very difficult very fast, as well as the fact that now that they don't have the ability to preserve fresh quirks, they don't have the ability to really create more powerful nomus, so they're only stuck with, I believe, the 7 near high-end nomus that are left, so they cannot create any more nomus. So that's a major difference between the official translation and the fan translation when it comes to the implications of why Garaki being locked up is very impactful to the story, especially when it ties into a particular individual that is revealed in this chapter, and how now they have a secondary quirk, which they couldn't have put into a nomu because Dr. Garaki was locked up and he has the inability to store quirks as well as create nomu. And now, from there, we're going to get probably into the main gist of this discussion video, particularly when it comes to the reveal of the female assassin that was sent by All For One to take Deku in by force, as we get the reveal that her name is Lady Nagant, or specifically, I'm not sure if the lady part is actually her name. It could be, her name could just be Nagant. It could be just translation issues between English and Japanese, but we'll just refer to her as Lady Nagant. And the main difference that I really want to bring up between the official and the fan translations is how she's introduced, because we get the one panel of her being introduced where it basically says that she has an association with the Safety Commission, but there's a very distinct difference between the translations, because with the fan translations she says former public safety hero Lady Nagant, and you can imply that that is referring to the Safety Commission and how she worked for them. But in the official translations, it's officially translated as a former hero employed by the Safety Commission, Lady Nagant. And that is more distinct and more specific about her relationship to the Safety Commission, meaning that she wasn't like the public safety hero, Lady Nagant, but that she was a former hero employed with the Safety Commission, in the same vein as how Hawks, who was also technically employed by the Safety Commission, because right now the Safety Commission is pretty much out of commission, but that this also ties more into the idea of another difference between like the official and fan, and this could just be the difference between Japanese culture and American cultures, because in the fan translations they say that Hawks refers to her as senpai, which could imply that she's significantly older than Hawks, but in the official translation it's seen as colleague, and I think colleague makes a little bit more sense due to like the English understanding of it, because if they were colleagues, they're both heroes, they both worked for the Safety Commission, it just makes sense for them to be colleagues and for Hawks to know her, which would explain how he has all this information about her and how he's able to tell Deku about Lady Nagant and how dangerous she is. So it just gives more clarity to her connection between Hawks and the Safety Commission. And now with that, a lot of the other translation differences are going to partake or pertain to Lady Nagant, and for the rest of this video I'm going to specifically discussing the importance of Lady Nagant to the story moving forward, and also a little bit of tidbit information that I said in the review and I'm going to repeat it right now. And a little fact that I want to bring up and add a little bit more to is that Nagant is actually the name of a gun, and there are two different Nagants that I've learned about. One is specifically a revolver, a Nagant M 1895, but then you have another type of Nagant that is more equivalent of a rifle, which would be the Mosin Nagant, and I think that may be the inspiration taken from Lady Nagant's arm, which we also get the reveal in this chapter that her quirk is Snipe, I believe, or Sniper. Let me recheck one more time. Her arm is a sniper rifle, but her quirk is rifle. And what's very interesting about this quirk is that when it's revealed that her quirk was rifle, we also get the reintroduction, or the first introduction of Snipe's quirk, which is homing, which we get a description of what homing is basically within a 600-meter radius. Snipe, if he's looking at someone, anything that he throws at him, either it's a bullet, either it's some object, it will always hit its mark, and it doesn't have the same type of accuracy, but whatever he throws at a person within a 600-meter radius, that it's going to hit. But when it comes to Lady Nagant, that's not her quirk at all. Her quirk is rifle, and it doesn't specifically say what, like in like deep description what it is, but it's kind of like a twofold quirk. The first fold is that she's able to use the pink and blue in her hair, and she's able to turn it and move it together, and how it acts more of like a poly-like substance, epoxy putty like substance, and how she's able to create different bullets out of that. That is the first part of her quirk, but a second part of her quirk, which may be inherent to her body, is that her right arm, and they specifically say in this chapter, in both the official and unofficial, that it's her right arm that can turn into a sniper rifle. And even when it comes to Snipe, how he says that many people with long-range homing at like quirks and like long-range quirks are jealous of her right arm rifle, specifically meaning that the rifle coming out of her arm is something that is inherent to her and isn't something that Overhaul was able to give her. So it shows that when it comes to her rifle quirk, it is the rifle itself coming out of her arm, and the ability to use her hair to create bullets. And this is very interesting because as soon as we see the flashback, we see that she used to have very long hair, but now if we see her in the present, her hair is more shorter, meaning that either A, when she uses her hair for the epoxy putty, that it literally takes away her hair and it's unable to grow back, or maybe it just takes a long while for it to grow. We just don't get that clarity in it, but we can imply that if it's like normal hair, that it will grow, and that she's used a large chunk of her hair, and that maybe her hair just grows slowly. So it's very interesting to look at, and how when it comes to her quirk, how it's not just specifically like, oh, it's like Frog, she's able to do anything that a frog does, or like Rabbit, anything that a rabbit can do. Rifle is a little bit more complex and has different things added to it that isn't necessarily just being able to create something out of her body. So that's something very interesting about Lady Nagant. And then there's something else that I want to get into that is a difference in translations between the official and the fan translations, and it mainly involves this big double page spread where we have Deku being shot by Lady Nagant using her sniper rifle, and by doing so, in the fan translations, he talks about how this bullet being shot at him is on a whole different level, but in the official translations, he specifically says that a howitzer shot is nothing compared to this. And I think that that is a very interesting and a very distinct difference between the official and the unofficial, because it gives us a general understanding of how powerful this shot was. And specifically, a howitzer shot, maybe not necessarily referring to an actual howitzer, but maybe referring to the howitzer shot by Bakugo and his super move, and how Deku is comparing it to that, even saying that this bullet is stronger than Bakugo's howitzer shot, which gives us a level of difference in power, showing that yes, she is on a totally different level, and how her firepower may be even stronger than Bakugo's. And we've seen like how Deku has been able to go up against Bakugo, and he's technically lost against Bakugo, so it shows that he's most likely going to have a very difficult time against Lady Nagant. Now, it's not saying that he's not going to win at all, but that it's going to be a very hard, drawn-out fight, which is shown in this chapter a little bit more, with Deku realizing that, hey, her shots are very dangerous, and that I'm only doing this because I have danger sense. But with someone of this caliber, of this skill, I can't just run away from them. I have to meet them head on. So because we know how powerful this howitzer shot is, and because Deku also knows how powerful the bullet is in comparison to the howitzer shot, he comes to the conclusion that he has to fight her head on or he may lose. So it's very interesting to see this difference in translations, and shows how powerful Lady Nagant actually is in comparison to other individuals in the world of My Hero Academia. And now we get into a little bit more different translations that specifically address like dialogue said by Lady Nagant and All For One, and how these differences in translations really change the character and like the importance that they go into play in the story, because we have another flashback in the chapter right during the prison break, where All For One specifically goes after Lady Nagant and asking for her help. And when it comes to like how he really asks her, that's pretty much the same, but a difference in real dialogue is Lady Nagant. In the unofficial fan translations, she basically says, oh, it's All For One, I remember that you used to be one of my targets back in the day. But in the actual like official translations, she says that, oh yeah, it was a time where you were my target. And this is very different, because one implies that, oh, she was just chasing after All For One and just gathering information, while in the official translation it shows that, oh no, she was planning on taking down All For One, that she was specifically brought on to take him down and to eliminate him, which is very interesting because it shows that she's not afraid most likely to kill villains. And even though she's working for the Hero Commission, or at least the Hero Commission themselves are willing to kill villains, even though they're supposed to be deemed as like humans, because realistically speaking, the difference between a villain and a hero is that they just did something bad, but that she was willing to kill All For One, most likely under the pretense of the Hero Commission. So that shows that she is willing to take action if it means achieving a goal, which would be, in this case, killing All For One. And another difference that I want to bring up is something that I talked about in the review is that how All For One tells her that he needs her to do something, and how he talks about how Deku, he kind of predicts what Deku's going to do, that he's going to be leaving UA, that he's going to be followed by pro heroes, and that he wants Lady Nagant to go after him, especially on a rainy day. And I thought, wow, that's a little bit too specific to just be in the chapter. But in actuality, that is exactly what he says in the chapter, not verbatim, but he basically says, yeah, a student's going to leave UA, he's going to be followed by some high-class heroes that are going to keep their distance, so you should try to split them up, maybe on a day where it's raining. So it's not as specific and like a little bit more condescending as it is in the unofficial, but it's still like very weird to pinpoint it out, meaning that on this raining day where Deku was separated from other heroes, that this was all planned out not just by All For One, but also by Lady Nagant, showing that maybe she's kept an eye on Deku this entire time, even during the fight where he was fighting Jailbreaker, aka Muscular, but that she's had his eye on him the entire time. And when it comes to the official and the unofficial translations, unofficially she says, I don't want to do that, while in the official translation she says, like, why should I do that? So that doesn't really like do anything major, it's just a fun thing to point out. But then we get to like a major difference between Lady Nagant in the unofficial translations and Lady Nagant in the official translations, because All For One brings up that in the unofficial fan translations that she slaughtered many of her fellow heroes, but in the official translations he says you killed a fellow hero. And this is very interesting because in the unofficial, it shows that she's pretty much like unredeemable, how she's basically Stain 2.0, killing multiple heroes to prove a point, while in the official translations, it shows that she's only killed one fellow hero, meaning that she's a little bit more redeemable than Stain, because Stain has killed many heroes and like taken many lives, but she's only taken one fellow hero life. But what is very interesting about that is that because she took a fellow hero life, was that what put her into Tartarus, just killing a fellow hero? Because we know Stain was also in Tartarus and he killed many heroes, or maybe she was put there because she was forced to kill a fellow hero, and that maybe by killing that one hero who she may have had an attachment to has led her down this path of hating this hero society. Because also in both translations she brings up the idea that was brought by All For One, how All For One talks about how this pro hero society, he wishes it to be destroyed, and how this one boy is going to prevent that, and how she says in both translations, basically it's like, oh, you're trying to give me false hope. It shows that she does not have faith in the hero society, the pro hero society that is currently in place, and that could be tied to the fact that she had to kill a fellow hero, maybe a hero that she has connection to. And also something else that is brought up as well in these chapters is how we also get to see overall throughout this chapter how he keeps chanting old man, and how you have All For One who's basically saying, oh, is this the 8 Precepts Hisakai leader? He's a friend of yours, isn't he Lady Nagant? And Lady Nagant's like, no, I just felt pity for him, I thought I was gonna use him someday. But then you have All For One in the unofficial translation brings up the idea that he's just another victim of this evil pro hero society, which no, he's not, he's a perpetrator of it. And that is pretty much what is said in the official as well. It doesn't specifically indicate that it is All For One saying it, but you can strongly imply that it is. And from there, nothing really else changes between the official and unofficial translations, but they both keep the idea that now Lady Nagant has the quirk Airwalk, and that's very important because she now has this Airwalk, she believes that she now needs to carry out this mission, as we also see All For One giving her the quirk, and he basically says pretty much the same thing as this is a contract in the official, while in the unofficial he says that he's making a deal with her. But this is very interesting because this ties into what I said at the beginning of this video about how because Dr. Garaki is locked up, All For One cannot just keep these quirks in the Nomus, nor is he really able to get a lot more quirks and be able to give them to the higher end Nomus, but he's able to now give them over to more people. And because we learned that when it comes to having multiple quirks inside of your body, that it like consumes your life force, because she now has the quirk Airwalk inside of her body, if she keeps that inside of her body, her life is going to be shortened by a significant amount. And because we as the readers know that, and because only the predecessors would know this, because they're the only ones who have incorporated multiple quirks inside of them, and they know the downfall of that, a normal person wouldn't know that. So this may play into the fight as well, because something else that I want to bring up is that when it comes to Lady Nagant, from what we see in the unofficial translations versus the official translations of Lady Nagant seems to be more sympathetic. It seems like she has done some wrong things, but that she's more redeemable in comparison to the unofficial fan translations, where she has just killed multiple heroes in the same vein as Stain. And from what we see, Stain is not redeemable at all. So because she seems to be more redeemable, and because we know Deku as the main character wants to learn more about villains and see whether or not he has to fight them or not, this is going to be an interesting dichotomy where we're going to most likely have Deku talking to Lady Nagant, who has a probably more gray area of pro-hero society, where she may not necessarily see it as fully evil because she was a part of it, but that she knows the negatives are part of it. So most likely there's going to be a conversation between Lady Nagant and Deku, and how they're going to give their different perspectives of hero society. And I think what's going to happen is that through this conversation, I think Lady Nagant may turn tail, or may turn more towards the side of heroes because of Deku. She sees something inside of Deku and is like, hey, maybe you could change pro-hero society, so maybe it doesn't have to be destroyed. And Deku may realize, yeah, when it comes to pro-hero society, yeah, based off what you said, yeah, hero society definitely needs to change, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be destroyed. So I think that in this conversation, I think that the purpose of Lady Nagant is to once again give Deku a different perspective of what a villain is, in the same vein as Gentle, where Deku viewed Gentle as a villain, but he also felt that if he wants his dreams to come true, other people's dreams must be crushed. And I think that he's going to get a very similar perspective from Lady Nagant when it comes to pro-hero society, where he realizes pro-hero society isn't as good as I thought it was, so I need to be the one to change it. And I think there may be a way where Lady Nagant may agree with him, where the fight doesn't end in complete bloodshed until Overhaul gets brought into it, possibly does something to Lady Nagant to try to get revenge on Deku for everything that he has done. Also possibly showing Lady Nagant that, oh yeah, this person that I've been carrying around, who I thought was broken by society, experimenting on little kids, oh, okay, maybe pro-hero society didn't really mess this guy up. Maybe he was just messed up in the first place. And so we may actually get a team up between Deku and Lady Nagant versus Overhaul, or even a possibility of Overhaul combining with Lady Nagant versus Deku, and seeing that fight go into play, where Deku would have to use force to take them out because Overhaul would not be willing to listen to him. So yeah, that's pretty much all the thoughts that I have based off the differences in translations, as well as when it comes to Lady Nagant. Just to reiterate what I think is going to happen with Lady Nagant, I think she's more of a morally gray character that sees the problems in the pro-hero society that do exist that many other heroes don't, but she just took it a step too far with potentially killing a hero. But just because she killed a single hero, there could be different implications for that, where she may be a villain now, but I think that she could turn more towards the side of hero once again, because she already followed that path. And it's going to be thanks to Deku not necessarily using I would like to say talk no jutsu, but basically convincing her and accepting like the faults of hero society into himself, coming to a realization himself, where they both like reach like a mutual agreement about how they should handle the new pro-hero society that Deku will most likely build up, and how she may not necessarily turn herself in, but that she won't be working for All For One anymore. But that's possibly going to lead to Overhaul trying to chime in, trying to kill Deku, which could eventually lead to Lady Nagant sacrificing herself to save Deku, or combining with Overhaul and doing some permanent stuff with him that could permanently mess her up, where she would still have to be captured. So there's a lot of things that can really go down, and just looking at Lady Nagant and seeing like that gray area of her in the story, it's going to be very interesting to see what Hirokoshi's going to do with her, and the confrontation that she's going to have with Deku in the next chapter. Because I think that they're still going to be fighting, but there's going to reach a point where Deku's going to try to communicate with her, try to talk to her, and try to understand who she is. And we may even go into a flashback of how she came to this point. We may even see the fellow hero that she killed. It could have been her lover. It could have been someone like truly did to her, but due to like some like thing with a hero commission wanting this person dead, and because she worked for them, she may have killed him. but because she killed a pro hero and the hero commissioned to save face through her entire, and that may be the reason why she lost hope in the pro hero society. We just don't know, but hopefully we're going to get a flashback in the upcoming chapters. So yeah, that's all the little thoughts that I have about this chapter right now. Hopefully you enjoyed the chapter. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts. What do you think of this chapter? And what do you think of Lady Nagant? Do you think that she's going to be a very good and developed character? Or do you think she's just going to be the generic, oh, I'm evil because hero society hurt me and I cannot forgive them? Leave your thoughts down below on what you think about Lady Nagant. You leave a like on this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to be notified for whenever I upload more content like this by hitting that little notification bell. Do all that cool jazz. And hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!